let's jump right into this. Welcome to today's Explainer. We're digging into some source material today that is, frankly, going to completely change how you look at custom aquariums. We're zeroing in on the Chicago area, the North Shore, the Northwest suburbs, but honestly, the engineering principles we're going to unpack, they apply literally anywhere. Because if you want a jaw-dropping, long-lasting custom aquarium, you've got to realize early on that it's just so much more than a glass box filled with water. Our source material drops this fascinating thought right out of the gate. Custom aquariums are engineering projects as much as they are decor. I absolutely love this because it totally shatters the whole illusion of a simple fish tank. Think of a massive custom build kind of like an iceberg. The beautiful coral, the exotic fish, that gorgeous cabinetry, that's just the 10% you see shining up top. The other 90%? Well, that is a hidden, highly complex ecosystem of structural engineering, heavy-duty plumbing, and life support systems, all running silently right there in your living room. So here's our roadmap for the Explainer. First, we'll look beyond just beautiful decor. Second, vetting your aquarium builder. Third, local Chicago installation challenges. And finally, your next steps. All right, section 1, beyond just beautiful decor. It really is way more than a glass box. So, if we look at the aesthetics, the fish species, the finish on the cabinetry, getting that perfect viewing height from your couch, and compare that with the engineering, things like safe load distribution, hidden plumbing routes, precise floor leveling, and of course, serious moisture protection, our source material is crystal clear on this. If you're interviewing a builder and they only want to chat about the pretty fish and the wood stain, but they kind of gloss over the performance and structural safety, yeah, they are not the right fit for the job. You need a team that treats the stand and the cabinetry as a fully integrated part of the life support system, not just an afterthought. Moving on to section 2, vetting your aquarium builder. Let's talk about asking the right questions. I want to pose a question directly to you. What specific questions actually separate the pros from the amateurs? Think about it for a second. Because if an amateur gets this wrong, you're not just stuck with an ugly piece of furniture. No, you are risking literally hundreds of gallons of salt water spilling all over your hardwood floors, not to mention losing a living, breathing ecosystem. To avoid that absolute nightmare scenario, you need targeted, specific vetting questions to figure out exactly how experienced a prospective team really is. Okay, here is the exact checklist you need for those interviews. When you sit down for a consultation, you've got to hit every single one of these key areas. First up, tank and plumbing design. Ask them point blank how they handle their overflow strategy, shutoff valves, and specifically leak prevention. Second, structural considerations. How exactly are they calculating safe weight distribution for your specific floor footprint? Third, filtration and commissioning. Fourth, warranty and aftercare. If a pump fails at midnight, what's their response time? And fifth, maintenance access. Look, reliable professional builders won't even blink at these questions. They'll give you confident answers and gladly show you documentation or photos of how they've handled these exact issues on previous builds. Now, you might have noticed a very specific industry term on that last list, so let's break it down. Commissioning. According to our source, this is a builder's startup plan, which includes cycle timelines, parameter targets, and equipment tuning. A top-tier builder doesn't just, fill up brand new tank with tap water, hand you a net, and say, good luck. No way. Commissioning is a mandatory phase. It's the super delicate process of bringing biological filtration online safely over time. The best builders in the industry plan for this from day one, and they actively support you through it to make sure your livestock actually thrives long-term. So after you've had your meetings and the quotes start rolling in, how do you actually make your choice? Well, our source gives a fantastic directive to cut through the noise. Always request a written scope covering design, materials, installation steps, and commissioning. When you're looking at these documents side by side, you're looking for absolute clarity. Does the quote specify the sump configuration? Does it clearly explain the timelines, the trade-offs, and set realistic expectations for that startup commissioning phase we just talked about? Honestly, if a quote comes back scribbled on a notepad without this level of detailed documentation, treat that as a massive red flag and just walk away. Section 3, Local Chicago Installation Challenges. Let's dig into the local environment. Let's look at typical layout constraints. We're talking beautifully finished basements, premium hardwood floors, tight suburban corners, limited routes for running new water lines. Now, combine those with Chicago environmental challenges, wild seasonal temperature swings, extreme condensation risks, and the constant threat of moisture building up right inside your high-end cabinetry. This right here is exactly why you need a local expert. They absolutely have to be masters of in-wall or near-wall placement strategies just to navigate tight suburban layouts. And on top of that, they need to know how to use heavy insulation and specific equipment to keep the temperature completely stable, whether it's a freezing Chicago winter or a brutally humid summer. The crucial takeaway from all those local constraints is actually pretty simple. Service tasks shouldn't require moving furniture or reaching through narrow gaps. Sounds obvious, right? But you'd be shocked at how often less experienced installers totally overlook this. A truly experienced local builder will look at a tight basement corner and immediately start planning the equipment layout backward, thinking entirely about future maintenance. They design the system so that changing filter media or testing water parameters is a quick, hassle-free process. It shouldn't be a weekly acrobatic routine that makes you regret getting an aquarium in the first place. And finally, Section 4, your next steps. How to get this project started. All right, let's get into the action plan. Step 1, measure your space precisely. And please, whatever you do, don't forget to check your floor levels. Water does not lie, and an unleveled floor is a major structural hazard. Step 2, write out a clear outline of your target livestock. What kind of fish and corals do you actually want to see every day? Combine that with your honest expectations for how much maintenance you're willing to do yourself versus hiring a pro. Step 3, book consultations with at least 2 or 3 local specialists. And here's a massive pro tip from our source. When you walk into those meetings, bring your exact measurements and a rough idea of where your power, plumbing, and drainage could go. Coming prepared like that completely changes the dynamic and instantly signals that you're a serious, informed buyer. By taking this structured, logical approach, you're setting yourself up for the ultimate goal, a system that runs reliably, is structurally safe for your home, and stays easy to maintain. That's the real value of using the strict vetting framework we've outlined today. Because remember, you aren't just buying a giant decoration, you're protecting your home's infrastructure and securing a huge financial and emotional investment for years to come. So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final provocative question to chew on. Is your home's infrastructure truly ready to support a living reef? It's a big question, for sure. Grab a tape measure, start looking closely at those floor joists and wall spaces, and use everything we've covered today to find the expert builder who can turn that vision into a safe, spectacular reality. Thanks so much for learning with me today, and happy planning.